gigantic road trip I'm about to go on in a week. I'm gonna drive from California out to Pennsylvania for the rest of the summer, and then drive back. So I think at least probably close to 4,000 miles each way, I think, because I'm gonna do a bike trip also. So I gotta get my truck ready. I've been driving the truck a lot, but I've kind of been neglecting things because I haven't been taking on trips. I didn't have any big trips planned. So one thing I'm gonna do is I got this power inverter, this little cheap thing from Walmart. You know, it's cheap, but I need to wire it up. So I'm gonna pull this all apart and just hardwire that because I don't have a lighter hooked up. So I'm gonna run that instead of my stereo. I have a USB port on my stereo, but my speakers went out. I didn't really want to buy speakers. For one, if you've ever been in one of these old trucks, it's so loud with the wind noise on the highway that your speakers are as loud as they can go anyway. And I don't know if I want music in it for long trips. So instead of that, I'll probably just wear one headphone whenever I'm driving or something, or just deal with it, no music, you know. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this speaker setup I have down here out. It's underneath my seat. I know it's dark in here, but that's my speaker stuff. It's just sitting up underneath the seat. I'm gonna pull that out and use those wires to wire in my inverter. Because another thing is I'm gonna try to do bike videos for the next 36 days after I start the trip. I'm about to turn 36 this weekend, so it's the older you get, the harder it is to ride. So I'm gonna try to do 36 days straight of putting a video out every day. I'm gonna try to put out more truck ones too, but obviously I'm not gonna have tools or anything there, so maybe some shows or just some traveling ones. So we'll see how that goes. But I need to charge up my computer whenever I'm driving, and I'll be camping in my camper shell, so I needed an inverter. That way I don't have to stop at a bunch of places, because I've had that issue before where it sucks whenever you can't charge things on the road. So other stuff I'm doing in here, nothing crazy. I just want it to look nice, because if there is some shows or something, I might take it to it, but you know, I have a bunch of issues that I hate already. If you've not seen inside my truck, there's some rust issues. I've 100% decided that I'm gonna switch cabs on this truck. I tried to buy one the other day, up towards San Francisco, but I don't know if it was a fraud or not. But they bailed. They never answered the marketplace message. So some other stuff I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand this bedside down. If you saw the car show, the Turlock swap meet video, I didn't get to finish sanding the cab and this bedside and the tailgate, and then I just ordered some Gibbs oil, so hopefully that comes in before I leave. I probably won't leave until it comes in, actually, but when that comes in, I'm going to apply Gibbs oil because Pennsylvania is very moist. It rains a lot. I don't want my truck rusting that crazy. I'm not that stressed on the cab rusting. I don't want it to look like trash, but I'm gonna replace the cab for sure, and then I'm gonna use those other 2 doors I bought. But I don't want the truck to look like death, so I'm gonna use Gibbs oil. I did want to clear it, but I don't have time, so I'm just gonna get it ready for the trip. Another thing, I've been driving my truck so much that everything is loose. I'm gonna go through the whole thing, grease all the fittings, control arms, ball joints. You can tell you drive your truck a lot whenever you have to tighten the hood letters. A bunch of my letters are loose up here, so I need to tighten those up. Another thing, I need to get this fender well in here. I've been wanting to grind these welds down because they're disgusting back here. So I might grind those down and then throw that on because I don't like all the dirt getting up in there. Another thing you can tell, my alternator is missing. The other day I was moving the grill in the backyard and loaded it in my truck, and my truck died. So I ordered an alternator. It should be in today. I got a nice clean black one. That alternator came with the engine, the donor engine, so who knows how many miles I had on it. So this one has 220 amps instead of I think 145 is the original. So get that on, but just try to tighten everything. This truck is rattling like death. And then I'm gonna try to fix the camper shell also. I bought some door latch stuff. I'm trying to grab this with my messed up hands. I bought these are like cabinet door locks, and I'm gonna drill some holes in the back of the door and then try to make these work. My rear hatch has never closed or never like latched shut, so it's always been bouncing. All the windows move, it's been bouncing. All the panels are loose, it's been bouncing. So you know, I think the drive they say is 36 hours, which for me will be like, it could be 7-8 days of me driving, just because I'm gonna stop and ride and film and take the kayak and do an adventure. You know, if you're gonna do a trip like this, why not make it real fun and hopefully make some cool videos for you guys to see. Definitely not afraid to take my truck real long, but it hasn't been running amazing lately. You know, the engine's getting up there. I think this engine's around I don't know, I'm probably in the 240,000 mile range. These things suck oil like crazy. I got a little oil leak, you know, a little diff leak, all sorts of leaks. So I'm just gonna address a bunch of things, get it ready for a road trip. That's what these trucks are made for. So we'll see how this goes. So here's my stereo setup that I have. I just snipped my power cord running in, and then I unhooked this ground, and these are just speaker wires, you know. But this is my power. I just ran a constant power to this just because I did this later. But I ran a fuse, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the fuse like an on-off switch. So when I'm not using it, I'm gonna just pull the fuse out of this inverter. That way, if there is any kind of parasitic drain, I don't want it killing my battery when I'm on the road, especially in the desert in Utah or somewhere where I'm gonna die. Alright, let's see if we can figure this out. So this is the inverter. Obviously there's a power and there's a ground in here. This is gonna be your power. Whatever wire goes to this little nipple. If you unthread this nipple, hopefully you guys can see that. I already did this earlier as far as just seeing what this was about. If you unthread it, there's a little nipple in here, a little piece that falls out. Well, there's a fuse in here. That's what tells me that most likely this is my power in. Because yes, you could put a fuse in the ground, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go grab some tools, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab a screwdriver and try to pry this out and break this shell off. Screwdriver. And the only reason I'm breaking this apart and not just snipping these wires is I want to see which wire goes to my positive and which one goes. I'm kind of guessing, to tell you the truth, but because there we go. Yeah, positive, ground. That makes more sense. So that way, whenever I split this wire, I can tell and not wire this backwards. I'm sure it would just pop the fuse anyway, but I don't want to be that guy. Let's snip this. hands are kind of hurting. So that's what I'm working on. I use my wire strippers. Who knows? Wait, let's start 14 gauge. I'm sure you're gonna cut that again. If I pull insulation off and I get a few wires in there, I'll go back and strip it again. I don't know what you guys can see. Stupid camera works weird, but I don't want any wires in there. Just because if you lose a bunch of copper wires, you're basically going from a 12 gauge, you know, down to a 14 or a 16, you know, and that's not what I want, especially with the inverter that is going to be working hard. If you don't know what an inverter is, it changes from DC power, which is 12 volt, to AC power, 110 volt. If you want to get on YouTube, you can learn a lot more about DC and all that, direct current versus alternating current. I don't really want to try to explain that in here, but I'm going to get a little extra room. But I want to leave that off for now. I'm going to hopefully get this end on my ground side. And again, if you don't understand electrical, you are just like me. I hated electrical. I must have slept during all those classes in school, but until I did my LS conversion, I didn't really care about that at all. And then whenever I did it, I had to read a lot, and that's how I learned. Just like everything, you just gotta go for it. I usually use heat shrink and all that on here. This is a ground cable. I'm not as worried. It's not like it's gonna short out or something, you know. So yes, corrosion can get in there and damage it, but a ground is not near as big of a deal as power. So I just use these crimpers I got a long time ago. Clamp that, but I usually hate these. They look really bad. All right, so this is ready to go in. I'm gonna run my some shrink wrap around there and solder this into the power cable. Now we're inside the cab. I know wiring's not the most interesting, but a lot of people get scared of it. So there's a fuse holder, an inline fuse holder. So I soldered it. This runs down under into my frame rail, and I have a lug coming from my battery in the back up to the middle. So so what I'm gonna do is, wiring is hard to hold, in case you're wondering. Again, I'm gonna start with 12 gauge and see. Nope. 14. All right, 14 is the one. Another tip I'll give you is I like to twist those before I put them together. Always remember to put your shrink wrap on first. It sucks when you don't. I'm gonna have to pull out a little more wire. Spread that out a little bit. Also, another thing is whenever you put your shrink tube on there, shrink wrap, whatever you want to call it, try to get it pretty far away from where you're soldering. It'll get too hot and shrink where you don't want it. And I know that obviously this is kind of sketchy, or not sketchy, but kind of in a easy to access spot, but sometimes you'll be dealing with old wires and you'll forget that and then have to cut it, and you're running low on wire because you try to make it all nice and tight. You know, stuff happens. And I always try to balance it, that way I don't have to hold that. And then I'm gonna go get my soldering gun and solder that up. We're back. This isn't the easiest place to solder. It never is the easiest, so let me not say that. These solder guns have a little light on them. You can tell when they're warming up. Another thing to do is always hold it here and let your solder on the tip get shiny, which means it's hot enough to be liquidy. I like to touch it too. Get a little solder on the tip. But you want to sit here and heat up those wires long enough that, and you always want to heat from the bottom and apply from the top, and it will suck that solder down in there eventually once it gets hot enough. I always like these bigger solder guns, even though I wish it was bigger so it'd heat up quicker, but the small ones sometimes I feel like don't get hot enough quick enough, especially on these thicker wires. You can tell it's starting to melt down into there. Another thing, if it's not getting hot enough, you'll tell that it will kind of just build up on there. So you'll have a real splotchy setup. But you should be able to kind of push it in there. That's all it is. I know that's not beautiful, but it does the trick. If you get it too hot, what it will do is all the heat will start running down into these real far, and it gets hard. It kind of just sucks to deal with. Another thing, I always try to make sure I don't have any little sharp points on here that will stab through the shrink tube. And then another tip is don't put that on there too quick. Sometimes you'll put it on too quick and it will it'll shrink and you won't be able to push it on, which kind of started to do that there a little bit, but it's not a big deal. And then I'll go get my heat gun and finish that up. Alright, with a heat gun, you know, you can use a lighter, you can use whatever, but all this is doing is shrinking down and sealing up the gaps. That way if water gets in there, it doesn't corrode it or anything too bad. But you don't have to go too crazy. But now I have a nice tight water sealed connection. This looks a lot better. You see guys use those little crimp butt connections. Those are almost as gross as that thing is. So I don't ever use those crimp ones for the butt connections. So hopefully that's all good. I'm going to attach this ground down here. I'm gonna sand on that so it gets a nice ground. Tighten that screw down real tight. That way, grounds are almost always your issue. So I'm gonna tighten that down real tight and then hook this up with a phone charger first or something on something not important, just in case I messed up. But I just want to see a little bare metal in there. Nothing crazy. Whenever I did that, I used a self-tap. Self-tappers are your favorite. Everybody's favorite, trust me. And then you want to put this flat side down. That way you don't get a crazy angle in there. You just want to make sure that's a nice tight connection. Obviously don't yank on this too much. But now I completed the cycle. So power comes in, runs through. My fuse, if it's pulling too much, it'll burn that fuse and cut off the circulation of electrons in there. So we'll see. Hopefully I hooked it up right. I left all this extra wire on here just in case. I'm probably gonna stick this way up underneath way up under the bench seat so I can get to it from the front. But I want my fuse so that I can move my seat up and pull this fuse if it catches fire. I guess these overheat a lot, but I need to get a different fuse. All I have is a 20 amp fuse, which I'm gonna plug in it for now, but it asked for 12, and I'll probably just throw in a 10, and hopefully it'll be enough. But you can see I got power, the screen light turned on. Well, nothing crazy, just a black alternator. Plastic feels a little loose in the back, but it is what it is. But I'm gonna throw this on, get my truck to run again. Well, as you can see, black alternator, way cleaner. This is the alternator that came out of my truck. It worked, but whenever I did the swap, just trying to clean that thing sucked. So hopefully this new one works. It's supposed to be 220 amps instead of 145. Hopefully it looks like everything is in the same spot. It looks like the same thing. So let's see. You can tell I already pulled out the old one. I left these bolts in just so I didn't lose them. My power that goes down to my lug is this red one back here, and then this is my exciter wire plug. I just put the power wire in here because it still does have it's still getting positive on that from that lug. Let's see if she fits up all. I should. Oh, a little, definitely looser. Tolerances aren't the same, but whatever. These will tighten it up. It's actually usually a pain to get these in. The factory one is super tight. But if you're used to older engines, these LS engines have idler pulleys because it's a serpentine belt. Or a tensioner pulley. So this just holds the alternator still. You know, the old ones, your alternator twisted, and that's what kept your tension, but these new ones don't do that. So whatever, I'll tighten this up in a second. But if you see back here, this plug just goes in the top. I know everyone's scared of the electrical on these, but that's all it is. And then I'll put my I'm gonna undo this. See how crazy that was to do an alternator. I like to always center those. All I had was a big O-ring for that wire. I think it's probably a 12 gauge or 8 gauge. I don't even know, but that's all it takes. And then I'll throw the belt around here after I tighten up these bolts. There we go. So alternator's on. I just had to get all these, I don't know what you can see, but you know, over under on all these pulleys, and this one's off a little, but whenever I run it, it's gonna straighten up the belt where it wants to be. But you just want to make sure that the pulley on the new alternator is the same, that way your ratio is the same. I tighten these. I don't go too crazy because it is an aluminum bracket. All I gotta do now is tighten up this lug. Hopefully my battery has enough charge to get this thing started, and then it will obviously recharge the battery. So trying to get the truck ready for the big old road trip. I tried to tighten this bolt. This is a cab bushing for the back. Well, it just fell off. Look how thin that is. That just rusted all the way down to nothing. That thing should probably be like 9/16 thick or ½ inch, who knows. But that's what happens. I'll show you what it looks like in here if you've never messed with these. I know this is gonna be dark. Let me get a flashlight. Back behind your cab, where we were working earlier, this is your cab bolt. It is like a cage nut, so that is stuck in there. And it's rusted in. Obviously, I don't even have a head to help turn that, so I'll show you guys what you do if you want the cheap fix. You know, it's only going to be like a 6,000 mile trip, so I shouldn't need anything too permanent. So what I'm going to use is some Permatex, the Ultra Black gasket maker. I know that's super ghetto, but I'm just going to pour it all over that bolt because I don't want to listen to that thing rattle the whole time. And that's how we're going to fix it. So sometimes you just got to make it so it's not as loud. Like I said, I plan on trying to get a whole new cab for this thing. I'm over this cab, hands down, if you can't tell. I was watching the video the other day and I was talking, and this rust channel right here was behind me, and it drove me crazy just looking at it. So that's what I'm working on. Also, I got a nice oil leak. I got the alternator on and running, but I had to sit there and run it long enough to charge my battery, which took a while. And it's leaking oil in a horrible spot. I really think it's some kind of tranny seal, you know, maybe the rear main seal or something like that. But I'm just gonna keep dumping oil into it, and I'm not ready to pull the engine. I'm not ready to do any of that right now. So I pulled my wheel off, as you can tell. I wanted to check the brake pads. I wanted to check the rotors, make sure they look alright. I'm gonna pull this dust shield off and jam some grease in there. I'm also gonna hit all my grease fittings, you know, on your ball joints, the back of your control arms, and I couldn't get to, with these tires wide, I couldn't get to this lower grease fitting for the ball joint and then the tie rod end. And then I always try to just give a quick glance, kind of yank on things and try to tighten up bolts, and obviously that's why I broke the cab bushing bolt off. But just try to eye everything up, give it a once over, make sure I look like I'm not going to die on the highway. Today I'm laying out trim. Like I said, I got a bunch of molding from the Turlock swap meet a couple weeks ago. I have all these molding clips that I've been laying out. These are all the screws. The screws hold in the arches. These are clips, and then there's a different kind of clip for like the doors and different areas. That I think the difference, sorry, I'm shaky. I think the difference is if you can get to the backside and push them out. The other ones have nuts. You know, it's an access thing. So I'm laying all this out. This is long bed trim, so I'm gonna have to cut it to size also. Not a big deal. Obviously short bed trim, good luck. You can't find anything for a short bed. So I'm gonna get to it and start marking some holes, drilling some holes, and, you know, maintenance things. Well, if you couldn't tell, that was a pain. I don't know if it's the bent trim, it's been up here, or if it's the aftermarket bedside, but that was really hard to fit on there. What I ended up doing is putting a little screw in here. This is going to overlap anyway, so it's not a big deal, and even if not, I don't care. So that piece is on, we're going to move on. Well, I didn't finish up filming putting the rest of that trim on, but I wanted to show you guys what most of it looks like. Here is the passenger side. Sorry, my dog wants to be in the view, but that's the passenger side. Fits pretty good. This cab, whoever did this cab, cornered, butchered it, and it's all bent, all crazy, so I bent my trim piece to fit. I didn't do this bedside, if you're wondering. I'm still sanding on it. It's real dark in here, but I'm still sanding on it. It looks like crap right now, so I'm loving the trim. It makes the truck look a lot better. That light's kind of blowing out my view, but the trim looks good on here. It kind of has a little gap in here. I might try to mess with that later and see what I can do, but that's what 67 to 68 trim looks like. Beginning of this video, I was talking about a road trip. I'm actually not going to take my truck now after sanding again all day on my truck and how much it rains. I was looking at the weather. It's raining like the first 5 days we get there, so I'm not gonna bother taking my truck. I'd be pissed the whole time, I think. Even with that Gibbs oil, it rains so hard out there that it will just blast all that oil off. So I'm doing the reasonable thing that I was not wanting to do, but I'm gonna take my girl's car. It'll end up working out in the end. It has air conditioning, better gas mileage, stuff like that. My dog will enjoy it a lot more. He doesn't deal with the heat as much, right, bud? So we're gonna take the Jeep, and it actually is gonna work out because I'm actually gonna tow my long bed Woody. If you haven't seen that, it's my 67 blue and white long bed, original paint, sweet truck. I'm gonna tow it out here. I've been wanting it out in California, so I'm gonna try to get all my paperwork done there, and then bring it out here, and then try to fix the transmission. So as much as it's a bummer not to take my truck out there, it's definitely the better choice. I like driving my truck. That's part of what I want these videos to be. But it's not ready yet. I'm going to clear coat it when I get back after the summer. So hope you guys enjoy this. I know it was a really long video, but these are some things you want to do to your truck before you take it on the road. Some stuff I didn't film is like tightening all my lug nuts. My lug nuts are kind of loose on some. Not crazy loose, but they get loose over time. And especially with these hubcaps on, just something you just don't check very often. So the truck's ready to sit in the garage for 6 weeks, but not ready for the road right now. I'm going to be reasonable and clear coat it before I take it out in the rain anymore. 'Cause it's just a losing battle. So I would not suggest doing the Gibbs oil if you're actually going to drive your truck very much. If you ever get caught in the rain, it's just depressing. It's like having a nicely painted car and it getting scratched all the time. So it's just a ton of sanding afterwards. So hope you guys enjoy this one. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Later.